But now we have Simon Cohen, who is going to come and to talk to us about the power of why. I asked Simon, how should I introduce you? Is there anything you'd like me to get across? And he said, well, you could tell people I gave away a £1 million business. So I thought, well, that's interesting. So now we get a chance to hear about why he did that and how to use that experience for yourselves. So everybody, Simon.
Sawubona. Sawubona is an awesome African Zulu greeting that I learned at the time of working with Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And it's much more than saying hello. It's a moment of witness. It means I see you. I see your respect, your dignity. It's bringing someone into being. And normally look into each other's eyes and say it to each other. So why don't you quickly just turn to the person on your left, look them in the eyes and say, Sawubona. It's lovely to be seen, isn't it? Now, there are so many ways to greet each other in South Africa, but the choice of words really matters. The choice of words really matters. And this is because words matter. What we choose to utter, we give power to. Words, as Dumbledore once said, was our most inexhaustible source of magic. When you spell things, words cast spells. That's why it's called spelling. Yeah? So when I'm spelling something with my 3-year-old girl in the bath here, spelling her name, Seren here, we're casting spells to heal or to harm. So words have got extraordinary power. And it's this subject, the language and lexicon of sustainability, that I'd really like to focus on today. So what are some of the words that we associate with sustainability? Well, here's a few of them, and we've just heard many more: green, energy, eco. Even sustainability, I feel, has been a word that has been overused and misused to a point that it's lost a lot of its power. I remember when sustainability spoke so much about why we're doing what we're doing. It spoke so much about our core beliefs. And now it's become more of a descriptor. What do? I'm in the sustainability sector. And this matters because when words lose their power, we lose our power to influence and affect change. So there's this primacy of language, and it's so important, as I haven't heard about this control alt delete notion, but we've got climate deniers and climate doubters and alternative facts, all of these people at the highest political offices. So it's more important than ever that the language that we use is persuasive and compelling. Otherwise, there is going to be a small portion of business and political self-serving interests that will inevitably win the day. Now, time and again at this event and other conferences as well, you have an opportunity, an invitation to introduce yourself. And normally there's the question of, so what do you do? And what normally follows is some kind of title and descriptor. I'm Daniela, I'm the Director of Sustainability for Selfridges. I think Daniela's here, by the way. And so that's okay, and that's the traditional thing. So what do? You're answering a question, right? It's polite. But when it comes to actually persuading people to think, speak, or act in a different way, behavioral change, which is the business of sustainability, I don't really care what you do. I don't. What really fascinates me, what really interests me, is why you do it. I'd like to give you this example with Jane Goodall, who is the renowned primatologist and peace activist who I had the pleasure of meeting at a global peace summit. And consider how she introduces herself. Through the power of a monkey. Yes, please, the video. Thank you.
My name is Jane Goodall. My age is 80. My job is giving people hope. I learned from my mother so much, the importance, I think, of support. Because when I was a child, My mother supported all my crazy love of animals. When I wanted to go off to Africa, aged 10, and everybody laughed at me, she supported me, and she simply said, which I took to heart and repeat again and again, that if you really want something, you have to be prepared to work very hard, take advantage of opportunity, and above all, never give up.
My job is to give people hope. She defines herself, identifies with her why, not with her what. And all leaders, all of the inspiring leaders across the different disciplines that I've worked with, start with their why. They identify with their why. So I'd like to give you an opportunity to reflect on this as well. And just for 30 seconds or so, and if you wish to close your eyes and have 30 seconds of just silent reflection, I'd like to think about this question: why do I do what I do? Very simple question, but really, really press yourself to whether or not, like Jane Goodall, it was her mum who really inspired her and gave her the opportunity of following her dreams. Whether it was some other childhood memory that you haven't shared with others, or some brave vision for the future. Reflect on why do you really do what you do. So please just reflect for 30 seconds or so on this question. Thank you. Everyone got something? Yeah? Cool. So now, please turn to your friend on your left, who you've brought each other into being. They're strangers no more. You've witnessed each other. And share with each other, just very briefly, what came out of the sound of silence. Why do you do what you do? Introduce yourself with your why to each other. Okay, thank you, everyone. I imagine that these conversations could go on for quite a long time, and please do continue them in the breaks. Just give me a sample, some of the words or phrases that stuck with you, either from your own why or your partner's why. So just shout out a few words or phrases that struck you in people's why. Impact. Fairness. Oh, doubly fair. Responsibility. Yeah. Making a difference. Optimization and motivation. Yeah. Respect, opportunity.
Control.
Change control. Okay. Flourishing. Lovely. Protect. Okay. Great. So these are some of the words and phrases that would be great to really go a lot deeper into this. Why do we do what we do? Because for me, the why is the language of sustainability that is going to be most sustaining. It's not the what. It's quite easy to conflate the why with the what, particularly when you really love your job. I for 11 years, ran an international communications agency with a conscience, which I founded when I was 24. Not my conscience. I founded the company when I was 24. And we work with all kinds of people, from His Royal Highness the Prince of Wales, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Mahatma Gandhi's grandson, Ted, and even Jedi Knights. That's me as Chewie there, with a campaign that you may remember about the Jedi in the religious census. And I loved my job. I absolutely loved it. So when anyone said to me, "So what do you do?" I'd be like, "I'm the Director of Sustainability for Selfridges." No, I'm the founder and managing director of Global Tolerance. And that was awesome. And I've had that massage of ego whenever I declare my what. And then a couple of years ago, when I just become a dad for the first time, and my wife fell pregnant with our second daughter, I decided to give away the company to focus on being a stay-at-home dad. So what happens when you define yourself so much by your what, and then your job changes? What's left? And for me, not very much, because I really underestimated how much of my own identity, my sense of self-worth was wrapped up in my what rather than my why. And what it required was really a systematic focus on my why, which happened through kind of daily meditation, speaking to family and friends, to reconnect, to recalibrate myself with my why, to understand that the reasons behind my choices, both to set up Global Tolerance, to run it, and then to give it away, they were consistent, even though my what had changed. And this question of why is something that is a tool for resilience for all of us as leaders to keep on coming back to why. But it's well beyond the kind of personal growth benefits. There's also a business case for why. And I know that there have been different sessions around purpose and the importance of it. And really, why is the question of purpose. There's you can't really see it, but I'll just summarize for you here. This is a Harvard Business Review analytics services report called The Business Case for Purpose. And on it, it found things that we all know, but don't necessarily implement. So 89% of senior executives said that having a collective purpose would contribute to employee satisfaction and well-being. 80% said that collective purpose for an organization would lead to customer loyalty and customer retention. Only 46% said that their company had a collective purpose, and 44% said that they were actually working towards having one. So there's a really big gap here, a purpose gap, between understanding the business benefits of having a collective purpose, having an individual sense of why, a collective sense of why, and marrying the two together. So this marrying of the individual why I do what I do and the business sense of why I do what I do is extremely important, because if you as individuals, your why I do what I do is very different, or there's a lack of congruence with the espoused why of the company you work for, you ain't going to hang around there much longer. So there's a potential HR crisis, there's a productivity crisis. But on the other side of crisis, there's also opportunity. At Global Tolerance, we had something called the sound of silence. Every day, 60 seconds of shared silence around a powerful, purpose-driven question. And out of that 60 seconds of silence came a birth pool of innovation, of campaign ideas, of creative juices flowing, as well as building connections within the team. So a systematic focus and furiously curious interest in this why of the individuals within a team, but also us as an entity, can bear a lot of fruit. So as well as the personal growth benefits, there's the business and productivity and HR benefits of why. This question of why lies behind all social movements. So not just looking at sustainability as businesses, but as a movement itself. Black Lives Matter is a great example of the purest form of why articulated. And it's not accepting singular words like fairness and respect and other ones that came up before, which are all very good, but it's really pressing. It's saying, so what? Says who? Who cares? You know, like, so why are you in this civil rights movement? Well, I believe in equality and fairness. Well, so what? Well, I think it's important to stand side by side with my brothers and sisters. Who cares? Because Black Lives Matter. So it gets to that emotive core that really, really resonates with why we really do what we do. And that Black Lives Matter connects the individual why with the collective why. And that's what sustains movements. And so is the same with the sustainability movement. I'll give you another example. September the 11th is possibly one of the darkest dates in modern history, but it's also a date suffused with light. September the 11th, 1906, when Mohandas K. Gandhi called a meeting at the Empire Theatre in Farish Street in Johannesburg to protest the Asiatic Law Amendment Ordinance of 1906. And there were about 300 people present to protest this law that would essentially reduce Indians in South Africa to semi-criminal status. And one person's why transformed everything. See, what Gandhi had in mind was civil disobedience, something like inspired by Thoreau. But there was a Muslim merchant called Sheikh Haji Habib who was so moved with his why, he stood up and shouted, "With God as my witness, I will not submit to this cowardly law. And that changed everything for Gandhi. It was no longer civil disobedience. By evoking the name of God, that changed everything for Gandhi. And that was the time when Gandhi made his own sacred oath with God and with every single person that was there in the Empire Theatre. And September the 11th was the date of Satyagraha, the force of love or truth or non-violence. It was a Muslim merchant gave birth to the modern non-violent movement on September the 11th. The same non-violent movement that inspired Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, even inspired the Women's March on the 21st of January 2017 and has helped free 3.3 billion people over the last 100 years. Because someone had the courage, they practiced the virtue of courage to speak their truth, to say their why, and to lead with their why. And as I say, I've worked with all kinds of people, including his grandson, and without exception, they have got such a clear understanding of their deepest sense of purpose, their why, that it permeates everything that they do. This incidentally is when we, on the September the 11th in 2006, so the 5-year anniversary of 9/11, but also the 100-year anniversary of the non-violent movement, when we borrowed Gandhi's wax figure from Madame Tussauds and put him outside a peace tent with 100 cute kids to promote the positive, hope-filled message on September the 11th. So let's look again now that we've got a bit more of an understanding of the why rather than the what. And today's theme is around embedding and communicating sustainable values. And while the idea of sustainable values is a bit of a hat tip or a nudge or a wink to the why we do what we do, I feel that there's value in moving on, moving towards sustainable virtues. So if values are the goal, virtues are the characteristics, the traits of moral excellence to get there. They help distinguish people who espouse values with those who practice virtues. So again, we've just heard in some of these why we do what we do, some of these sustainable values coming out. And I would hope that most of the people, just a show of hands, who would sign up to most of the values on this screen. Cool. How about integrity? Integrity? Cool. No hands down. Great. And that's what we'd expect, right? And that's fantastic. But what about the virtues that underpin them? I had a conversation with Jeff Smith, because just to backtrack, this is an issue when everyone in the room raises their hand and puts integrity. President Trump will raise his hand and say integrity as well. So how do we distinguish the two? And this is why the language and words are so important, and how virtues is a really helpful tool to get there. So Jeff Smith, he's a local primary school head teacher just around the corner from me in Cornwall, and he was commissioned by the government to create a character curriculum, and he is a representative of something called the Virtues Project. And I asked him in preparation for this talk about sustainability, values, and about integrity, and he suggested that behind integrity, the virtues of trustworthiness and justice may be behind there. So when we're worthy of trust, we attract abundance and we create lasting success, the foundation of our business agreements and our personal covenants. Justice is the guardian of integrity. So it's not accepting values as sound bites on the homepage of a website or on a glossy brochure. It's having this, again, furious curiosity to look what underpins, what drives, what fuels these values. What are the virtues? And can we practice the virtue of courage, of vulnerability, to put out our virtues within our businesses as well? So I'd like to leave you by inviting you to keep asking why. Keep asking why of yourselves, of your business partners, of your colleagues, of your governments as well. Because when you do that, when you look beneath values and you look to virtues, you help distinguish the greenwasher To the green hero, someone like Wangari Maathai. When you keep asking why, like my 2-year-old and 3-year-old girls, who it's their favourite word at the moment, why? Those 3 letters, that one word cast a spell. And that one question has the possibility, it's an inexhaustible source of magic in itself. It has the possibility of opening up a new language for sustainability, one that is innate and within all of us, that is central to why we do what we do. And so that we refuse to let the language of sustainability become a descriptor, a what. And we give ourselves permission, because we're all conscience-driven people, all working within the sustainability sector, to say, this is why I do it. I'm here to give people hope, because my mum, when I was a kid, invited me to follow my dreams, and I wanted to go to Africa, and this is what's driving me. This is the persuasive communication, the democratizing communication that will catalyze social impact and is so necessary in today's day and age. So I do invite you at the next break, when someone inevitably asks you, so what do you do, to practice that virtue of courage and respond with your why. Thank you very much.